Let's take examples of creating new components using the Angular CLI or the ng command. And to demonstrate the working of components, I have already created a brand new Angular project called Counter App. And as you can see, it's already running here. So welcome to Counter App, and has got the basic links here. I've already opened the same thing in Visual Studio Code. This is a brand new application. Nothing is changed except that I've added Bootstrap CSS to this one. Other than that, there is nothing else. So we do have here src app, and we have here app component ts, which has got this title. We can change that anytime. We have the HTML corresponding to the same thing, which has got all this stuff. We will get rid of all these things and add our own header, footer, and another component for counter application. And then there is a CSS. I'll show you how this CSS can affect our view as well. Now, of course, we do not want to change anything at this time, but we want to add new components to our application. Now, remember, every time we add a new component, it has to be registered with our ng module, so which is there in app module ts. Right now, this is the only component, as you can see, app component. Now, I'm going to create another component here, and this is going to be called, let's say, app header and app footer, and of course the counter component. Now, to create these new components, I have to go to a command prompt, which is terminal here. Now, I can stop this. I don't need to stop, but I can. But on Mac, I can open a new tab, and by pressing Command T, and then I have a new command prompt here. So my server is still running here, but I have another tab that is open, which is in the same location. As such, you can see that I'm in the counter app here. Now, to create a new component, you can use the command ng generate and then say component. Now, of course, we have a shorter variant of the same thing. You can simply say ng gc, G for generate, C for components, and then you need to give the name of the component you want to create. Suppose if I want to create a header component, then you just have to type header, or if it's app header, give app header. Now, I can say, for example, app header, but what happens is it's going to create everything in this location, making this a bigger file. So what we can organize them as a folder. I can say here components slash. So it's going to create a new folder called components, and inside that I can say that it's supposed to create me a app-header component. Now, it'll also add a prefix of app- for every selector. Now, in this demonstration, I will leave that as it is, and I press enter. And later, I'm also going to say I don't want any prefix, because anyway, I have given here app-. Otherwise, it's going to create app-header as a prefix. We'll see that in a minute. And when I press enter, it's going to generate 4 different files. The files comprises of a CSS, an HTML, a test spec code, and then your actual component code. Now, if you don't want the spec, for example, you can always say -- spec equals to false. You don't get this file at all. You can also verify that the file app.module.ts has been updated with. You can see that it has added app header component to our application. That's really neat, because otherwise I have to keep track of adding each one of them. Now, if I go there, if I control click this particular file and see what is there in that, you can see that it has added a prefix app- to our application, which doesn't look nice. So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to leave it as app header. And of course, that's just a header over here. So there's nothing in this. And let's generate a new component now. So I'm going to generate here an ng-gc, and this time I'll say components slash app footer. Angular has a few recommendations as how the naming convention should be followed. So they say use a prefix, so it is not going to collide with any of the built-in HTML tags or some other framework tags. So it's always better to specify your framework specific prefix over here. And this time I also say -- spec equals to false, -- prefix equals to an empty string. If you don't give an empty string, then of course it's going to take app-. So this time you'll see that there are only 3 files that get generated, and there is update, of course, in the module ts. And also, just to make sure that we have got that generated, you can see the app footer, the component. If you look at the component ts, you see that it is now neat. It's not app dash footer, just app dash footer. So let's add one more component, and this time I'm going to just use an up arrow, and then I'm going to say counter, and then of course we have a counter component as well. So in order to use them, this is the selector that has to be used. So I have here app counter, app header, app footer. So I go to the app.component HTML, get rid of everything here, and then I can say here app header. You can see it's going to help me with this app header, and then I can say app dash counter slash app counter, of course app footer slash app footer. As soon as I save this and go back to the browser, I should see that the three components placed there, but all it does is it says app header works, app counter works, app footer works. Of course, this is an auto-generated code for every component. If you look at the components slash app header, there is the HTML part of it, and it simply says app header works. Now we can get rid of this and then put a div, and probably inside the div I can say h1 welcome to the counter app, and I can add a CSS class name here by saying something like alert-info, save it, and we should see a beautiful header. Of course, in the app footer works, let's add a basic copyright kind of information. So let's go to the footer HTML. I'm going to get rid of this app footer works. Of course, we can say p text center, that's like the text center aligned. And then of course I can say here that all rights reserved by, let's say, https://vinod.com, and press enter. That's going to be the footer, supposed to be center aligned, and you can see it's there. Now of course the counter, app counter works, and that's what actually we want to create.